following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hey everybody, this is Wild Bill Wiles, and you are watching the Insider's Edge Wrestling Podcast.
Hi everybody, this is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
Bennett.
C.W. Anderson.
Sean Oliver. My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge Podcast.
Now get on the
Train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Infirri. It is so good to be with you all again. And here tonight for me, today for him, great opportunity here for me to speak to somebody from one of my favorite wrestling companies that has ever been, ECW. He's a member or former member of the New Dangerous Alliance. He's wild. He's beautiful. He's Billy Wiles. How are you, my friend?
How are you, man? Good to be here.
Great to have you, bro.
Yeah, you mentioned like nighttime there. That was my big concern. You're telling me, oh yeah, we're going to do it at 10 o'clock. I'm like, does he mean 10 o'clock his time or 10 o'clock my time? I was confused until you sent me that text. I was like, all right, we're cool.
Yeah, man, I'm used to being up really late for these, but I want to make it easy for people on the other side of the world to do these interviews because I can't expect everyone to be up late at night. I can do that. I'm able to handle it, but some people at this stage, I just want to make it comfortable for them. And if I'm uncomfortable, that's fine. I live in Australia. I'm used to being uncomfortable. Having shower, then you get out the shower, put your clothes on, and then the shower's already ruined because you just walk out into the weather. So,
Yeah.
So, Billy, thank you so much for being on the show here today. And as usual, the first question we ask everyone on the show is, when you were a young man, how did you become a wrestling fan?
My father. Used to watch wrestling with my father Saturday mornings, and my father used to watch wrestling, so I watched wrestling and I would wrestle with my father. That's how I originally got into pro wrestling, through my father.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always great when I hear those early stories, and there's a lot of bonding with usually sons and their fathers introducing them to wrestling. My situation was the opposite. Actually, I saw wrestling on television. It must have been 1992. And I was blown away immediately, wondering what this amazing thing was. And my dad immediately jumped on it and said, oh, no, this isn't real. It's not this. This is garbage, but unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, watching it with my father, you were talking about, in the 70s.
Right.
So, I grew up on that. And, that's my earliest memories. The first wrestling shows I went to, my father took me. So
Awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah,
that's great fun, man. And also I found out in my research that you, in your past, you were a drummer in a band. I've been in bands as well. So I thought that might be a little road we could go down before we get back into the wrestling. How did you first really get into music? Did your dad influence you with that as well? And what led you to playing the drums?
Well, it's funny. I started playing drums when I was 9. And school band, marching band, drum corps, things like that. I only found out after my father passed away in 1999 that he was a musician. I never knew he played bass. I was actually told by my godfather, who I've really never met since I was like a baby. I spoke to him at his funeral, and he told me all about my father playing bass in a band and everything like that. And something my father never told me.
Wow.
So I guess I, maybe inherited a little bit of that. But I started playing drums. I was touring in bands while I was in high school. I lived in New Jersey. You probably don't know where that is. But,
I know. It's kind of like near you.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, right. About 60 miles south of New York is where I lived.
Right.
And, 15, 16 years old, I would hop in cars with older guys. We would go to Connecticut, play a gig, and I'd be back in the morning and go to school. So that's how I started. I started playing, touring in bands. So
Oh, that's cool, man. What kind of style of music were you into?
I have played in every kind of style of music you could possibly imagine. Back then, of course, I was playing hardcore music. I was in a hardcore band, but I was also in jazz band. I was in marching bands at that time. And then I was touring with like a 9-piece funk band. We had a 5-piece horn line, and, we opened up where we toured with like Blind Melon and, bands like that. We opened for, P-Funk All-Stars and things like that. So all different kinds of music. After my wrestling career, I stopped doing that in 2003. I went back to music, playing hard rock. I was actually in an oldies group touring, doing doo-wop shows, which was the most fun I've ever had playing any type of music in my entire life. And that was a really great experience.
Wow, that's amazing, bro. Like, your Wikipedia article doesn't give it enough credit. It just says, he played drums in bands before he was in wrestling.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know who wrote that.
Really.
I've seen that Wikipedia page, and I don't know who. They had me winning a lightweight title. I haven't been a lightweight since I was a freshman in high school. But whoever wrote that, it was probably high.
Okay, I can imagine. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't give you the credit that you really deserve. Yeah, that's quite an accomplished performer there, being able to do so many different genres. And one other thing before we get into the wrestling talk is, do you have any funny or horror stories about being in, the music business, touring? Something had to happen at some point.
It's funny because you compare being on the road with a band and then being on the road wrestling.
Yeah.
And I remember, being in ECW, being on the ring crew, there were 6-7 of us in one hotel room at the Red Roof Inn, sleeping on the floor, sleeping here, and guys complaining. I'm like, guys, when I was in a band, I remember playing in Manhattan, and I had a small Astro van at the time, and there was 2 bands, was my band and a band called Hogan's Heroes. And I remember, there's 7 of us, we slept in a parking lot. I slept on the ground. I used those little concrete headers, for the parking space. That was my pillow. We slept in the street, and you guys are complaining you're in a Red Roof Inn. Shut up. We would go from show to show, and hopefully you would hook up with somebody who would let you sleep at their house. You'd shower, you wake up in the morning, steal all the food you can, and be gone before they woke up. And that's how we got from, place to place. And it was awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. It's cherished memories. And, my friend Kev, he was in a band that they supported Ugly Kid Joe on a European tour, and they didn't have anywhere to stay. So Ugly Kid Joe, during their set every night, would be like, hey, these boys from Australia, they don't have anywhere to stay, if anyone can help them out. So they have like all these amazing stories of all these random people that they spent time with and lived and stayed with. And it's just
people think you're on, you're on tour. You're like, oh God, these guys must be staying at the Marriott. No, man, we're sleeping in our van if we can't find someone to put us up for the night, So it was a lot of, I wouldn't be able to do it now. I'm 50 years old now. I wouldn't be able to do that now. But back then it was an awesome experience, and it really prepared me for being in professional wrestling, being on the road, and what it took to do that. I was used to it. I was used to the hardship and only having $10 to get to the next town. I'm like, hey, I got $10. I'm used to having nothing.
Yeah, who would have thought your life as a musician, you're already training at that point to be a wrestler. So before the wrestling business and you decide to get into it, what was your life like? What jobs did you have? Was it just the music thing, or did you also work in some sort of place?
Oh, I've always worked since I was about 12 years old. I've washed dishes. I worked at a submarine sandwich shop, actually on and off my entire life. In fact, I still have a key to the place. I'm still friends with the owner. I've worked landscaping, construction, you name it. More recently, I was a general manager of a gym franchise. Now I sell cars.
Ah, cool.
Who knows? who knew I'd wind up being a car salesman? It's just something that came up, and I got to pay the bills. But I've always worked. Even there was only a small portion of the time when I was in ECW when wrestling was my only, maybe about 9 years, where wrestling was my only job.
Right.
I've always had 2, maybe 3 sources of income. Even now, I'm a car salesman. I work at a financial company. My wife and I have a travel agency. I started a YouTube vlog. So there's, I'm always working.
Excellent, bro. Got to keep busy, that's for sure. So, okay, now we're getting to wrestling. What point did you make the decision, okay, this is something that I've got to do? And is it true you were trained by Larry Sharpe?
Yes. So I was the moment that the switch went off where I'm like, I have to do this. Someday I need to be a pro wrestler. I was at WrestleMania 1. Oh. And there I am. And I was a huge Roddy Piper fan. Roddy Piper comes out. The drums are playing. The bagpipes are playing. I'm the only one cheering. And I'm like, and you go back and watch that. I tell some of the guys I coach now, I'm like, go back and watch that match. Just how amazing it was. Just the psychology of it and the electricity of that match. They didn't do much at all.
Yeah.
When they came together, and Piper and T were standing there, you could just feel it. That's what needs to come back to pro wrestling. But it was at that moment I'm like, I got to be a pro wrestler, and I need to be a heel because this is awesome. But no, I grew up. I met Balls Mahoney, John Reckner, my sophomore year of high school. And he introduced me to Chris Candido. He lived next to him. We all went to school in the same area. We all wrestled for our schools. I actually wrestled John 2-3 times a year, plus tournaments and stuff, before we even became professional wrestlers. So that's how he introduced me. Him and Chris introduced me to the Monster Factory, and then Larry Sharpe, and then from there.
Right, it's just crazy how these things suddenly, slowly but surely end up in there, and that's awesome, man. I never knew actually that Balls did amateur wrestling and stuff like that. So yeah, that's certainly a sight to think of in my mind.
Yeah, I have some cool pictures of him and I wrestling each other in high school, and it's pretty cool. It's something I still have up.
That's great, bro. So tell me about how your experience was training in the Monster Factory, and you're young in the business. How do you first get your feet wet into performing for the first time?
Well, I was around it. Like John and Chris, they were wrestling while they were in high school. They were wrestling, at the Monster Factory, and I would go with them, but I would never get in the ring. I was an amateur wrestler. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do this. But I was a huge fan, so I always went with them. But I would never get in the ring, never do it. They'd, come on. No. It was only a number of years later where John called me and it's like, hey, can you give me a lift to the Monster Factory? And I had just come off the road with the band, had nothing going on. I'm like, yeah, but I'll give you a ride, but get me in and let me see. And he was excited. He was like, yeah, you want to get in the ring? Awesome. Well, that night, it was him, this guy, Gus. I think that the Headbangers may have been there, Chuck Sloan, and a couple other guys. John that got there early with me showed me how to, run the ropes, how to protect myself, tuck my chin, things like that. Then those guys got there and beat the living crap out of me. Can we curse on this? Yes. I'm from Australia. You can say any fucking words you want. I'm from Jersey, so like fuck is like an adjective. So they beat the living shit out of me for about 2 hours. I mean, they superplexed me 6 times in a row. Like I was just a beanbag for these guys. I'm laying on the outside of the ring. My lip is busted open. My nose is bleeding. My earlobe was torn from my head. And I'm just laying there, just a mess. And Larry Sharpe, who I've known, walks over to me and says, kid, have you ever met Larry Sharpe? Have you ever, the way he talks, he has a cigar in his mouth. He's like, kid, if you make it back next week, you don't have to pay me a dime. And if he would have just walked by, I probably would have never come back to pro wrestling. But he said that. I'm like, well, fuck you. I'm not giving up. So I didn't get out of bed for like 2 days. And I made it back next week, and I started training right from there. And I had my first match about 2 months later, and it involved me and John. John was wrestling as the Abu Singh. He would come out and breathe fire and all that stuff. So I was the Necromancer or whatever,
Right.
And it was Johnny Rods and Jungle Jim McPherson, and I was, that was my first pro wrestling match. And Johnny Rods beat the crap out of me like he owed me money. But I guess to see, if this young kid would come back, and I never gave up. I kept coming back.
Brilliant, bro. So my research also tells me through 1994, 95, and 96, you wrestled through Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and New Jersey as the Nomad. Is that correct?
I did some. Most of it was Wild Bill. I was Wild Bill Wiles.
Okay.
I see what happened is John had just come back from Smoky Mountain. He was wrestling as Boo Bradley, but he also did a Buddha Singh up in the Northeast here. So I was traveling with him. So if I was going to wrestle John as Boo Bradley or whatever, I would wrestle as a Nomad in a hood. Okay. And I could tag with John as Wild Bill or the Necromancer. So I wrestled, all at the same time, Wild Bill, Necromancer, with the hood as the Nomad, things like that.
Okay, cool. I'm just, these are the questions early on where, I start to clear up difficulties in my research, because some websites that I look at, they just don't have the correct information. So now I know a little bit more about what's going on. You always
back then it was great, because a lot of guys would you when you're first starting out, you'd get a lot of experience because you could wrestle under the hood as the Nomad, and then go back out later on, with a different pair of tights as Wild Bill. I'd get to wrestle twice in the night. I wouldn't get paid twice, but I got that experience. I got that extra experience, which I think a lot of these kids today aren't getting. They are not getting that experience, And it was a great time to break in, wrestling down in Maryland for MEWF, which is Maryland Championship Wrestling now. I got to meet a lot of the guys that I'm still friends with to this day. Steve Carino. I met Axel Rotten there. A lot of great guys were in that area, and it was great.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, you know what, you are right about that. Young guys these days don't have the opportunities to work more often and work several times a week. Here in Australia, for example, there's wrestling companies in every state. We've actually got, I think, 3 in our own state, and these guys probably only get to wrestle in front of a crowd anyway, once every 6 to 8 weeks, because it's just not feasible to do it on a weekly basis. So and that's the important thing, in front of a crowd. You can wrestle 1,000 matches at the school or wherever, but you have to be in front of a crowd. That's where you learn. You learn how to work the crowd. These kids today, they're so used to being in the locker room and putting their match together, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and if they miss D, they go back to D because they didn't hit it. And then when the crowd the crowd should dictate when you go home. And if they're not listening to the crowd, you're too worried about it. The crowd's here ready to go home, and you still got, G, F, and whatever. And then you do 2 more things, then you go home, and then the crowd's like, you should have went home. You're not listening to the crowd. So again, that, working 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week in front of a crowd, and a couple, a few times a night. If you're doing 3 shows, back then we're doing 3 shows a week, and I got to wrestle 2 times each show. I got 6 matches in front of people. I really learned how to work with the crowd, and that's what they're missing today. Yeah, I agree, man. I wrestled back in about 2010 to 2014, and it used to really blow my mind that a lot of the guys would just map out every single second of the match. But then when someone would be wrestling me, he'd be like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, let's figure out the finish, and then we'll just go out there and just do it." And they'd be like, "What?" Like, but I can't do it that way. And it's like, trust me, it'll be fine. Like, and then I'd have a match with someone and I'd tell them that it's time to go home. And then afterward, they get mad at me and be like, I had all these different moves that I needed to hit. And I'm like, no, dude, could you hear we had the crowd right there at that perfect point. That's when it needed to end. You can't do that. That's for me. Like, I liked improvising. I preferred that.
Yeah.
I could not sit there and I couldn't memorize 15 spots. I just that's just not me. So anyway, at
least not in an order. At least not in like when I would wrestle at the Master Factory with some of our students, they would have these spots. I'm like, okay, well, that spot, this spot, 4 or 5 spots, and I would let them know, okay, keep them in your pocket. We'll go out there with no framework. We know what the finish is going to come in, and then if the crowd dictates it, then you pull that spot out. Then you hit that spot, and then if you don't hit all these spots, nobody knows you didn't get to them. Who cares?
Save it for next time.
Right.
Anyway, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there. I just,
No.
that's one thing I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're friends with a guy called Balls Mahoney. At this stage, he's not Balls Mahoney, but twice in the past, we've had people on the show where I'd need to ask them any stories they have about him being gross. So Big Sal told me about how he was eating out of the trash at a Limp Bizkit concert. New Jack told me about how he was eating his own boogers whilst they were driving around from town to town. Do you have any stories of him being disgusting?
Yes. Being in the position of knowing John a lot longer than any of those people, knowing John from early high school. One of my favorite, it's not really being disgusting, it's just being crazy. And this is, before I was even wrestling, I was supposed to play a show with a band, got canceled, big snowstorm. So he calls me up, says, come on over, I'm having a party at my house. Go over to his house. And I had just started dating this girl. This girl, she goes to a Catholic high school, Catholic college, and I'm trying to make a nice impression. And I bring her to Balls Mahoney's house. So John gets all screwed up. He's wasted. And he gets mad at one of the guys there. He strips down completely naked, grabs a hatchet, and runs after this guy, chases him outside. So John's running through the snow completely naked, runs across the street to his neighbor's house, naked in the snow, and starts chopping a tree down with his hatchet in his neighbor's yard naked, screaming, just, ah! The neighbors come out. The police come, and there's naked John Reckner with a hatchet in his front yard. But on the road wrestling, I got to wrestle John so many times. He was just crazy. He did what he wanted to do, and that was that. I remember wrestling. We did an ECW show in the afternoon, and it was in Belmar, New Jersey, at a bar outside on the beach. And he's wrestling I forget who. He's all cut open. We get done there and we all jump in the car and we drive down to Maryland. We're going to wrestle in Maryland. So him and I go out there. We get to the show just enough time. Boom, we go right out to the ring. Now in Maryland, in that state, there's an athletic commission and you are not allowed to bleed. If there's any little bit of blood, they stop the match. The commissioner, they don't do any of that. So we're going. John's got these fresh cuts. He says, open me up. I'm like, I'm not opening you up. He's like, open me up. So I'm like, okay. I just start punching him in the head, and he starts bleeding all over the place. The commissioner sends down the word, cut the match. John's like, no. I'm like, John, we got to go home. No. F you, F this. Boom, boom, boom. The commissioner comes down. Now the commissioner rings the bell. I'm standing there like an idiot. John's yelling now, full of blood, yelling at the commissioner, who's like a 85-year-old man, about how he can't get an erection anymore. He's just jealous. He's screaming, and I just kind of slink away. And John lost his license. He didn't get it back until he actually worked for WWE. They got it back for him. That state. But yeah, he was crazy. I got so many crazy stories of being on the road, driving with him. I have actually videos that I'm going to put on YouTube soon of some of our trips. and things I have on tape. I've waited a long time, just because there's a lot of backstage stuff, and because of kayfabe, I didn't want to put them up. But now,
Yeah.
I'm going to put them up.
Oh, that'd be fantastic to watch, man. I love stuff like that. There's a lot of gems out there. I think there's a lot of old backstage footage from one of the old Great American Bashes where all the guys are just, I don't know what's going on with them, but something obviously.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's
Have
like
you
the
seen
last day of the tour, and they're all like, yeah, that's a fun video.
I think Arn Anderson even pulls a brown eye to the camera at one stage. It's ridiculous.
It's a good video, yeah.
So please tell me, Billy, about how the opportunity came about to be involved with Extreme Championship Wrestling.
I just happened to make the drive one day with John. I'd been around that locker room a bunch of times. John was working there for about a year at that point. And I knew everybody that was there. I was friends with Axel, friends with Chris Candido, all those guys coming up to the Northeast. That's where a lot of the ECW guys came from, was this Northeast area. So I knew all those guys. So I would go to hang out and stuff like that. One day, John's like, "Hey, can make the trip up to Boston with me?" I'm like, "Okay." And you always have your gear with you. I had to throw my gear in. And I was sitting in the locker room in Waltham, Massachusetts. And the booking table is like 10 feet from us, and they're all sitting around. It's Paul, it's Tommy Dreamer, Taz, Bubba Ray Dudley, Chris, and they're doing whatever, and then they all stop and they kind of look at me. I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? Like, I'm just sitting here, man. What the fuck? And they're like, you got your gear? I'm like, yeah. They're like, all right, you're gonna work Axel Rotten. I'm like, okay. I've worked Axel before a bunch of times, so I'm comfortable. So I get my gear, put it on. And went out, worked Axel. He hit me with this move. I don't even know. They have these weird names for everything nowadays. But basically, I lean back, picks my head up, picks me up, and kind of drops me. He only wanted me to jump up about this far and drop me. Well, I overcompensated because I was excited. Jumped straight up like a suplex, and then he came straight down on my head. He took care of me. I was fine, but it looked like I died. And being brought up by Larry and in the business, I know like the whole place was like, oh my God, he's dead. So I'm like, I'm selling this. I'm not gonna get up and just roll out and walk to the back. So I laid there like I was dead. I made somebody come out and pick me up, carry me to the back. Well, Paul Heyman thought I was dead. I got to the back, I stood up. I'm like, cool, hey, thanks, Axel. He's like, what the hell was that? And he's like, you got a job. You're hired.
Wow.
That's how I got my job.
Brilliant, bro. That's fantastic, man. Yeah, that was the 25th of April, 1997 at the IBEW Hall. So that's, wow. So you just happened to be there by happenstance. And then the next thing you get to wrestle someone who I think is one of the most underrated technical wrestlers in history, Axel Rotten. They all think back to the Type A death match. He was so much more than that.
Absolutely.
I wanted to kind of go through your first 5 matches in ECW, just bit by bit. If there's a story, cool. If not, that's fine. We can move on. 2nd of May, 1997, Asbury Park Convention Center, Louis Spicoli. How was that experience with Louis? And do you have any Louis stories? As we haven't had anyone have the chance to tell any stories about him yet.
I really don't. I didn't travel with him. He ran with a different, crowd in ECW than I did. He was a great guy. He was great to me. Wrestling him, I'm just new guy. He could have taken advantage of me. He didn't. He really worked. He really knew his psychology. He knew that, if he just went out there and beat me up, it wouldn't mean anything. So we went out there and we had a pretty competitive match. It's in my hometown too. It was pretty cool. He was great to work with. A lot of give and take. We had a good time. Light as a feather. Really great guy to me. Never was anything but good to me.
Awesome, bro. So then the next one, 8th of May, 1997 at the Lost Battalion Hall in New York City. You take on Balls. We don't need to go anywhere with that. We've already heard a bit about Balls so far. 16th of May, 97 against Stevie Richards at the Pepsi International Building in Syracuse, New York. I don't think Stevie's there for much longer. I think 97, 98-ish, he moves on to WCW. But any memories of that one?
I think that was like a it was like almost like a market kind of place. It was like a big it was a weird building, I remember. And now we just had a good technical match. I remember a lot of arm drags going back and forth. And I remember he wanted me to hit him with the stun gun before he actually hit me with a stunner. And I'm like, okay. I remember the only thing he said, because he just had an injury to his nose, like he broke his nose or something. He was just like, be careful of my nose. And okay. And we worked a couple times, but yeah, he was always good to work with, always fun to work with.
Excellent, bro.
And I actually replaced him in the BWO for a little bit. Like, a lot of people don't know this.
Really?
So when he left, they threw me out there with Meanie and Nova. I'm Wild Bill and I'm a heel and whatever. And so I go out there a couple times with them, because I'm very good friends with Brian and Mike, and I'm like, Paul, I don't fit in with these people. Why do you keep putting me out there with them? I'm a heel, I'm Wild Bill. I'm like, I don't understand. He's like, you're funny. Just go be funny. I'm like, okay. So that night I went out there, and I used to break dance. I could break dance. I'm actually a very good break. So I went out there. I started break dancing. And I think that was also in Revere, Massachusetts that night. I started breakdancing, and it was hilarious. And he's like, that's it. Do that. I became Boogaloo Bill Wiles for a very short period of time with the BWO. But the end of that was Nicole Bass went to hit me with a power bomb, botched it, dropped me on my head, broke 3 of my ribs.
Shit.
Put me out of commission for a little while. And then that's when Nova and Meanie kind of went that way. And I was put there, but yeah, for a little trivia for you.
Yeah, fantastic. See, I had a feeling that doing this first 5 matches thing might end up in us branching off into something that I wasn't expecting. So that is awesome. I love those little tidbits of information. You worked balls again the next day for the Buffalo Invasion at the Flickinger Center in Buffalo.
Yeah, Burt Flickinger Center. Yeah. Great building.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
man.
I love that building.
And of course, for me, I watched this earlier today. It was, the big one for you, the 26th of July, 1997. I'm sure there was something that happened before that, but TV debut for Hardcore TV. You take on Sabu, and this to me,
also in Buffalo.
I was like, what? Okay, so he puts you on the table on the outside. He does a springboard. Leg drops you, the table doesn't break, goes back in the ring, doesn't even touch the chair, just jumps straight over the ropes, leg drops you. The table still doesn't break, but the leg does. And then he finishes you off with the camel clutch. And then after the match, RVD does a drop kick into a chair, which has been held by Bill Alfonso. And as he drop kicks, the chair kind of turns sideways, and it looks like it just smacks you straight in the face. So it looked like a really hard day at the office. But what's your memory of that one?
That match, yeah, I remember a lot about that match. I think that was the match. It was the first time I worked Sabu. The funny Sabu, going back, a little side Sabu story. The night I got my job in ECW in Waltham, Massachusetts, I was feeling good. I was like, oh, I got a job. Wow, this is amazing. We all go back to the hotel. We're all going to watch the ECW show on TV. 1 o'clock in the morning, it comes on. So we're all at the hotel. So me and John go down to this room. Everyone's in there. Sabu grabs me and throws me against the wall. And he's like, because in the match, I gave Axel a shoulder tackle, and then I went to hit the ropes. Instead of turning and running towards the ropes, I kind of backed into him. He throws me against the wall in this hotel. And it's like, you ever fucking do that again? I swear to God, I'll fucking kill you myself. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, what the hell, man? So that was my introduction to Sabu. And now here I am. I'm going to work him. And, I think I gained his respect in the beginning of that match, because if you look at that match, in the beginning of the match, we do a couple things. He gets the chair. He holds it over his head. and he kind of hesitates. And what he's telling me is back up. And I'm telling him, hit me. Because in my mind, I'm like, you haven't done anything. Why should I be afraid? So there's a hesitation. I say, hit me. He goes, fuck it. Boom, he hits me. I take a bump. You see him look over at Bill and go, this fucking kid's crazy. So then I get up again. He holds a chair, and then I back away. And then he does a thing. And then later on that night, he's like, why'd you do that? I'm like, well, you didn't do anything with it yet. I wasn't, why would I be afraid of it? He's like, I like that. Okay. I think I got a little, but in that match, the goddamn table, the ring crew bought the wrong size tables.
Oh, shit.
They bought the smaller table. It's like the 6 foot instead of like the 8 foot ones. So it's more, it's more sturdy. So I remember him hitting that, boom. And I'm like, oh God. So all I hear from Sabu was like, fuck, do it again. So I stayed there. I see him come over, boom, hits me again. And then we kind of just slide. Yeah. And I'm like, my chest is, I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. So he's like, fuck it, take it home. So we go back in. We take it home. Now Bill's there with the chair, holding it in front of my face, and I'm kind of unprotected. I'm like, what are we doing? He's like, don't worry. And if you look at that video, at the last second when Van Dam comes in, you'll see Sabu's hand turn, like boom, like that. I never touched me.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you'll see Sabu's. If you watch it closely, you'll see Sabu's hand just turn.
All right.
He was amazing.
Wow.
And I'm scared to death because I'm like, what is going to happen to me right now? Because my face is up, my arms are here, there's a chair in my face, and here comes Van Dam running at me. But he took care of me. And I worked Sabu a bunch of times, always took care of me, always light as a feather. Amazing.
Amazing, bro. Wow. Because I only watched that match about maybe about an hour ago, and I was like, surely that, but now I know he protected you. So I know it's always difficult for a talent working shows in front of the ECW crowd, and they might not know who you are. So you really got to prove yourself from the get-go. How did the fans receive you from day dot? And, how did that relationship between you and that hardcore audience evolve as time went by, and as you maybe would have gained some of their respect for what you did?
I think that match with Sabu got a lot of respect for me, because the ECW fans were smart. They knew, and if you could take that beating and keep on coming, you start to gain their respect. Buffalo was the guys used to make fun of me because every time we go to Buffalo, somebody had a Wild Bill sign or something like that. Because every time I would be in Buffalo, I would have a great match with Balls Mahoney, Sabu, Raven, so over time, you just got to do what you do, and you'll win them over. Just be good. Just be good at what you're doing. They can smell shit.
Yeah.
They're smart, and they know. And it was once you were in their to their liking, you were in for life. You're one of them.
Absolutely, bro. The next few months, as time wears on, we get to 1999. You work a lot of house shows. Actually, you know what? This isn't making any sense. You work on Hardcore TV in July of 97, but then the next part, all I can see is that you're doing house shows in 1999. Was there a little bit of a gap of time there at all?
No. I was working house shows the whole time. There was a bit where, like I said, I got injured. Okay. And I was like ringing the bell. They had me as like the evil timekeeper on TV.
Okay, right.
Just to keep me on the road, being getting a paycheck while I convalesced, because I had 2 broken ribs on one side, one on the other side. My sternum, I hurt my neck. So I was out for a while.
Okay, cool.
And then they didn't kind of have a place for me, so I was ringing the bell, being the evil timekeeper, just to be paid. Still working shows, and that's how we kind of got into being teamed with CW.
All right. You see, on this show, I leave no stone unturned. So when I see a little bit of gap somewhere, and I just realized then I got to know. So thank you for the information. Now I can sleep tonight. In 1999, you start working a lot of house shows with Steve Carino, Tom Marquez. And of course, you work a match against CW before a team is formed where you both work with Doring and Roadkill and Axel and Balls a lot until the end of 1999 before, I guess, the team is brought onto television. So can you please tell me a little bit about, whose idea it was to put you with CW and, how those first few months worked out, before it brought onto television?
Well, the thing is, before the shows, we would always train. And we'd all work out together. A lot of the younger guys. Tracy Smothers used to bring us to workouts. He would help us out a lot. And then, whoever would be there would help us. And I got to work out with CW a lot. And him and I had the same kind of philosophy, same kind of psychology, the same people we admired, in the business. And we really kind of clicked. I'm like, man, we should, work together. They had us wrestle each other. It was in Pennsylvania somewhere, I think, some weird place. But it was funny because Axel was supposed to come out at the end of that match and just hit us both with a chair, and then they go do what they do. But I remember I shot on CW on our first match. We did the Headlock Takeover series, and I take you over, head scissors kick out, you take me over, blah blah blah. So it was, I was supposed to feed for the second, I kick out, I turn around to feed for the headlock. Well, he starts feeding into the headlock again. We bonk heads. And out of instinct, I just hooked him and threw him, took him over, put him in a hold. I'm like, oh, shit, sorry. So I kind of shot on him the first time we wrestled each other, which is funny. I didn't hurt him or anything, but it took me a second. I was like, oh, sorry, dude. All right, well. But me and CW got along great. It was actually Supernova, Mike Bucci, who put us together. He went to Dreamer and was like, these guys, they should definitely be together. We did some tag stuff before the workouts, during the workouts, before the shows. And he did, I think it was in Florida,
awesome.
Where he put us together the first time. And it clicked with the same philosophy, work a body part, tell a story, things like that, which in ECW, you didn't see a lot of. So,
yeah. And for those playing at home, that match between you two took place in a place called Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. That building, oh my God. It was, you walk in that building and there's like pictures of like cattle that was sold. I guess they used to sell cattle there. Wow. And we used to get dressed in the back of the building. It was a big auditorium. There was a door that went out into like cattle stalls. And there was like hay. I guess they moved all the animals like 2 stalls down. Cause you're sitting there getting dressed and there's be a cow, like, looking at you. You're like, hey, what's going on? That was the locker room in that building. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was also the building that Roadkill was created.
Oh, right.
Yep. Because I think it was Al Snow. They used to say he looked Amish, and out in that area of Pennsylvania is where all the Amish are. And I think it was Al Snow that went out and got him the hat and everything. And then they made him go out there as Amish Roadkill, and it kind of stuck. It was at that building too.
That's amazing. See, if I didn't mention which town it was in, then we wouldn't have got that little bit of information. So fantastic. A little pat of myself on the back there.
Well done.
First match as a team on Hardcore TV, the 19th of February 2000 in Milwaukee. You take on Chris Chetty and Nova, which is what a great tag team to have your first TV taping match with. You both get the win here. Tell me a little bit about how you found out you're going to be put with Lou in the new Dangerous Alliance and be a part of this thing.
It kind of started off as like a rib, as kind of like a parody, as because before that, me and CW together, we kind of modeled ourselves after like, the Andersons, the Minnesota or the Wrecking Crew. We had the black jackets and things like that. But then they started that, and it was more of a joke. It was more like a rib. All right, we're ribbing Paul, whatever. you know. But then we started getting, they started getting a little serious. And I remember going to Paul, I'm like, this is going to get serious. I'm like, I don't look like Bobby Eaton, man. Like, I'm not tall, like as tall as him. I don't have blonde hair. I'm not going to do that leg drop off the top because my knees will wind up in the front row. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And again, Paul's like, you're creative, man. Do stuff. I'm like, I can throw some Elvis-isms in. I can be a little flashy. He's like, do that. And he was like, oh, whatever. And he never told me to change or whatever. So I kept doing that. But yeah, that was the first time where I found out, like, yeah, all right, this is going to be serious now. No more parody, no more, BS. We're going to be a force here. And it was cool working with CW. Probably the most fun I've had in my entire career. Louis is amazing, unbelievable manager. Always there where you need him. Never missed a spot. Never missed anything. Great on the microphone. He was awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely, bro. I've been sinking my teeth into 2000 ECW in the last 6 to 8 months or so, and I really am impressed with Lou and how he went from Sign Guy Dudley to Louis Dangerously, and he's cutting promos like he never really cut promos like that before, and he's doing a really great job. And this thing just starts to build and build and build. And I know you said that I was one of 3 New Dangerous Alliance fans, but as when I'm watching it back again, I'm like, this is like some great stuff. And another great moment in this group's history, your pay-per-view debut. This must be so exciting for you after all these years. You've been doing this for 7-8 years at this point. 12th of March 2000, Living Dangerously. You both beat Doring and Roadkill, and Elektra joins the group. Tell me a little bit about how exciting that is to be on live pay-per-view there for the first time.
We didn't even know we were going to be on that pay-per-view. You figure, Living Dangerously, I'm like, we got to be on this pay-per-view. Me and Sabu are talking like, do you know what we're doing? I don't know. What are we doing? I don't know. And then we find out when we get there what we were doing. And I think there was something where Doring and Roadkill and Elektra, they had to be split up for one reason or other. I don't know if there was heat or something between them. So they figured, all right, well, we'll give them to them. But yeah, I mean, she was good for us. It was a good night. It was a good night. We got a win on pay-per-view. The pay-per-view was named after us. But yeah, a funny part about that is if you look at it when they go to VTR during our entrance, and then they come back and we're in the ring, and you'll see me standing there kind of like, kind of standing there like this while they're all moving around. It's because as we were getting in the ring, I step into the ring and CW kicked with his heel. The ring rope hit me right in the balls. I'm like, oh, I'm trying to play it off. They come back live. Louis is like walking around and he's starting to talk, and CW's there, and I'm just like, whoo. So a little side note if you go back and look at it. But it was a fun night. We went on pay-per-view. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I can't believe he would do that to you on live pay-per-view.
CW, I mean, it was on purpose, or maybe, I don't know. But he wound up hurting me all the time. I remember we were the opening match in Birmingham, Alabama, and he was working Mikey Whipwreck. And right in the beginning of the match, the dark match was me against Tom Marquez. So I wrestled, beat Tom Marquez. I come through the curtain, throw my stuff back on, and go right back out for the opening match. And we've been doing a thing where I'll grab a guy, and CW will come to hit him. He'll duck, and he'll hit me in the head. And he's been hitting me in the ear a bunch of times. And right before we go out that night, I'm like, dude, just try not to hit me in the ear. One of these times you're going to bust my eardrum. He's like, I know what I'm fucking doing. I'm like, okay. We go out there, and you see the pay-per-view. He hits me, boom, blows my eardrum out. My equilibrium's all over the place. I'm falling down, standing up, falling. I don't know where I am. But yeah, he blew out my eardrum that night. so many nights been hit with that phone. God, that phone. I think they put concrete in that thing, but yeah, but nothing on purpose. It was I never held anything against him.
No, well, that phone, every time I saw it be used, it ricocheted off people's heads and flew into the crowd. It was like, for crying out loud.
That was actually like those old wireless phones you would get for your house with the with the antenna and stuff.
Yeah.
He would buy them at like yard sales or flea markets, and that was it. He would maybe loosen the screws so if it broke it would fly apart. But that thing was a solid.
That would hurt.
Oh man, it did.
So I want to know your thoughts on Electra joining the group and what she brought to the table. Obviously, there's a couple of things she brought to the table. I mean, as a teenager,
there were two main things.
When I first saw it, and I was like, I didn't know that boobs could move. I had no idea that anyone could do that. So mind blowing for many teenagers out there, I'm sure, and a very appreciated part of the act. Except, look, I understand creating heat to the fans, but to keep her in a robe a lot of the time, that got me mad. So please tell me a little bit about having her a part of the group. That's a great little element to add to the New Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah, definitely brought a different dimension to the group. Brought a lot of more fans to us and got us a lot more heat. We would say, if we lose this match, she'll take her top off. So we lose the match, we throw a robe over and drag her out, so you don't get to see them. That young male adults, that pisses them off, promising them boobs and not giving them boobs.
Exactly, bro.
But
exactly.
Yeah, just a different dimension. She brought, and she was used for what she was there for. She was good at it.
Yeah. And one thing I do find funny is that, like, whenever you watch something like that back in the day, a girl is with this group and she's a hot girl or whatever, you just automatically assume, even though wrestling is it's a performance and all that stuff, you still always think to yourself, who is she? She's obviously with one of these guys in the group. But when I watched it, I was like, there's no way Electra's banging any guys in this group. There's just no chance of that. And that's not a knock on anyone. I just thought that. But it's an exciting point in your career. You're on pay-per-view several times now. You're always on television. You guys have stories going on. So you must be really excited about where this is all heading at this point. Am I right?
Yeah, we were riding high. We were having a good time. Yeah, I mean, the draw was up. We were on TV, on pay-per-view, having a good time together, traveling the world together. It was a good time.
And you're working a lot with Doring and Roadkill, obviously, as mentioned. Tell me, what's it like working with Doring and Roadkill? Because we always get great responses from people about them.
Working with Danny is awesome. Danny was one of my best friends in this business. We traveled together. We drove that ring truck all over this country together, roomed together. I used to sleep on his floor, in his at his house. To this day, we're still very good friends. Working him was great. We didn't have to talk about a lot. We just went out there and did it, and it was great. He was there when you needed him, and light as a feather. Awesome. Roadkill. I'm just gonna say he had about 3 or 4 things he could do well, and that's what he did. He didn't try to do things he wasn't good at, and was he stiff? Yeah. I think he took a little advantage of some of the younger guys maybe later on, but we had great matches together. We had good heat together, and it was a lot of fun.
Cool, bro. Danny Doring is definitely a bucket list guy to have on the show. I've seen him do interviews before, and he's hilarious and very honest about everything. Chili Willy's the next guy I wanted to bring up because we had him on the show. I guess it was late last year, and he also says to say hello. I talked to him on Messenger, at least once a week.
Yeah.
So he said,
Yeah, he just friended me on Facebook. Like he'll friend me and then disappear, and then friend me again and then disappear, and then friend me again. I'm like, what is this dude doing? But yeah, he just friended me again on Facebook the other day. I love Chili. Chili was great. I got to work a great match with him in LA. Again, a dark match. I was like the king of the dark match. And I forget what pay-per-view that was, and we had in LA. I got to work with him in the dark match, and we had a great match. It was so much fun. I got to work him a bunch of times, a couple times on TV too. I remember one match in I think it was Minnesota. So much fun. He's good, good dude, real good dude.
Awesome, bro. Yeah, and I think he actually sent you that friend request because I said to him, search for William Wiles on Facebook. You'll find him. That's how that happened. So big shout out to you, Chili. Thanks for being a friend of the show. So before we continue on with your timeline of events in ECW, I just wanted to ask you about, do you have any fun travel lodge stories?
Travel lodge stories. Well, travel stories. Listen, man, I got 4 kids now. No, but yeah, I mean, listen, every night on the road was could be a story. Everywhere we went, everything we did could be, God, I'm trying to weed out the ones that I don't really want my wife to know about.
So this happens every time, Billy. Every single time I ask this question, it's this. Who am I going to incriminate?
I don't want him. He's married and has a kid now. I don't want to say that about him. Yeah. I'll go back to Bowles Mahoney. So Red Roof Inn, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is the famous focal point story that they all talk about. But from my point of view, we were at the building. We're loading up the ring truck. I'm driving the truck. Danny Doring's next to me. We're driving back to the hotel. As we're pulling into the hotel, it's Red Roof Inn, so the building is kind of like long this way. You pull in this way, you can drive all the way around out the other side. And as we start to pull in, there's police cars everywhere. There's like 20 police cars. And the first thing, me and Danny look at each other and I'm like, is Ball staying here? Sure enough, we pull in. There's Mahoney standing there in Joe Boxer briefs. That's it. Covered in blood, screaming, surrounded by the police. Some of them have their weapons drawn. As we start to drive by, everyone kind of looks. He points at us, and we're like, we just pull, and we just kept going. He's like, no, guys, no. We just left him. Like, I don't want any part of that shit.
See, all these stories, damn. These days, everyone has a phone on them that can record stuff, and we're missing out on all this stuff because there's no phones back then that can do that. Just
no. I am so happy that these did not exist. When we're traveling. No, because we'd all be in jail. Somebody used to bring his camera around. I'm not going to say who, but they had videotapes of some things. And I tell them all the time, you gotta burn these things, man. Like, it's like if you die, like your wife's gonna find these things, and we're all going down. Like he's like, I can't bring myself to get rid of these. Like, you have to. But there is some footage, but yeah, a lot of crazy shit. I'm just glad that. There's a reason why these kids today just play video games, okay? When they're on the road, because this would get them in trouble.
Hopefully you can all get together just in a secret little society in a room, a few beers, put a tape in and be like, okay, all right, let's see this shit. That would be tremendous.
Yeah, and then just get rid of it.
Now, speaking of moments where I wish someone had a phone around to film on their phone, we ask everyone this story on the show because we want to do a compilation of everyone's point of view from this incident in 2000. It's Heatwave 2000. And it is the XPW thing where there's a big fight in the parking lot. We've had many sides of the story so far, but I know you must have been there, Billy. What is your recollection of what happened at Heatwave 2000?
That's the night I worked Chili Willy. But I just remember being in the back, and I was part of the ring crew too. I was like the ring crew foreman. my first wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was in charge of all the merchandise at the time too. So, I'm helping them out. I'm doing ring crew stuff, running around, and I hear this commotion over by the monitor. I run over, what's going on? See what's going on out front. Starts to break down. I'm like, oh, whatever, and I got to do what I got to do. Next thing I know, I look over, there's a big door, like a load-in door, like a big truck bay door. All I remember is that thing opening up and the XPW guys out there, and we emptied out and just left them laying there. I remember just the door closing and them just laying about. It was like in a flash that the door opened. We all ran out, laid it in, and then left and closed the door. Because you got to remember our security's out there too, Atlas Security. So they're on our side.
Yeah, of course.
So
holy
yeah,
shit, man! It's just
we were well versed in fighting the fans. I mean, in those early days of ECW, I mean, there were times, in Plymouth Meeting Armory, riot breaks out. It's like our locker room fighting 3,000 fans. We're fighting there. We're, shit like that broke out all the time, and we're always fighting, beating up fans and things like that. So we were well versed when we were ready.
This is the craziest shit, man. Like, this does not happen anymore in wrestling, that's for sure. Now, look, as far as I'm concerned, things are going really well with the New Dangerous Alliance, but it gets to a point where you end up splitting with CW, and I actually watched this back earlier as well. What was your thought process behind finding out that you and CW were being split up? I know that they had big plans for him going down the line, but how did you feel about that?
I didn't mind being split up. I think they could have did it better. But if I was going to book it, I would have us split up. But we need to. Every time a tag team was split up, they would feud against each other. CW left me laying around. I got jumped by a bunch of people. He leaves me laying, and the next time on TV, I'm out in the ring with him. Like, well, this is stupid.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing here, man? Like, so we should be feuding against each other and at least have one go around and a big blow off. A big feud and a big blow off, and then he can go that way, I can go that way. But none of that happened. It was just like, oh, we split up, blah blah blah, and that's that. And I always felt that could have been so much better than it was. But yeah, no hard feelings. I mean, I went to do my thing, he did his thing, and it was great.
Yeah, man. I just as a fan, I just thought to myself, at least do a couple of weeks build on TV for a big match on if the TNN show was still going or whatever. Just to tie off that loose end, and
right.
If you didn't have a plan to make this big thing that had a blow off on pay-per-view, at least do that, just so beautiful Billy doesn't look like I just got like embarrassed in front of the whole world and I don't have a comeback for that. Everyone makes a comeback for that in wrestling. That's how it works. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I thought that was an important piece of the story that didn't get to.
That was my only beef, that it wasn't finished right.
Right.
That's all. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what? I mean, I know you said you're 50 years old. I know CW is drinking from the fountain of youth, but that story can still be tied off in 2021, I think.
I think my doctor might have a word to say about that.
Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. So you form a team soon after this with the Prodigy, aka Tom Marquez, as the Sideshow Freaks from my research and everything. So how did you feel about being moved into another tag team, and obviously your character starts to evolve a little bit here?
Yeah, well, it was actually at the arena the last night that I actually worked with CW. Paul took me in the back and he said, we're gonna do something cool with you. I think it's gonna be really great. You're gonna be Bilvis Wesley, and you're gonna be like an Elvis.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was pissed because, in the beginning of the whole Dangerous Alliance thing, I'm like, I can do some Elvisism. I don't want to be the honky tonk man. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that. I love the honky tonk man, and I don't want to do that. So I stayed away from having a jumpsuit and all that while I was with the Dangerous Alliance. But now here's Paul telling me, oh, you're going to be Bilvis Wesley. You're going to be Elvis. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I'm like, this is the honky tonk, man.
Yeah.
And I was pissed. And I went out and I was like, I'm going home. I'm done, and it was actually Nova was like, talk me out of it. He's like, no, man, you could do this. Do it your own way. Just come up with, a way to do it different. So he kind of talked me into like, all right, sticking around and kind of doing it. And my way was I wanted to be the pilled up, fucked up version of Elvis. Like come out, pills will fall out of my my jumpsuit. Like, oh God, something like that. And then now, they're like, oh, we can't do that. I'm like, this is ECW, right? Like,
perfect.
I can't, like, really, I can't do that. But so it was like in this mediocre, watered down honky tonk. I really didn't like it. I love tag team wrestling more than singles wrestling. So I like being in a tag team. Tom Marquez was one of the House of Hardcore kids. So it was cool. They used to put a lot of different guys with me, a lot of guys from down in Shawn Michaels camp. They put all those guys with me, which was really cool. Those guys were great. But I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of great ideas that got shot down with it that I thought would have been pretty cool. But it is what it is. It was at the end of that, end of the ECW's run, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I understand, bro. So as we're talking about getting to the end of ECW, was there anything that you started to notice yourself from your point of view where things didn't seem like they were going too well? I know there was a lot of hate with TNN, but was there anything that you noticed?
Yeah, my paycheck stopped cashing.
Right.
That was the main thing. Yeah, I mean, at the end, your paychecks are bouncing, or oh, we don't have paychecks this week. We'll get them to you. Maybe next week we'll mail them to you. And you're like, man, here I am on the road, spending money, doing this, doing that, and a lot of us knew what was going to come. We didn't drink that Kool-Aid. I remember the last night at the Hammerstein Ballroom, Paul's giving a speech. Oh, I'm going to LA and I'm not coming back until I have a new deal. I'm like, man, I know you're going to LA to film the rollerball thing. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. I know what's going on. So yeah. So a lot of us already had plans, we saw the writing on the wall.
Absolutely, bro. 23rd December 2000. I thought this was really important to bring up because you worked with Balls one last time at the ECW Arena for Holiday Hell. I just thought it was important because it's right near the end of ECW, but this is someone that you knew from the beginning, and it kind of it's like a coming full circle towards the end of ECW there. What does Balls mean to you in your career?
Balls means a lot to me. We were friends from high school. Very good friends before pro wrestling even was in my life. He always looked out for me. He always took care of me. I remember the first night I did work for WWF at the Garden. And the next night they wanted me to go up and work again at the in Albany. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get to Albany. Well, John went out, got me a rental car, paid for the rental car, didn't want money for it. And got me a rental car so I can go and work the next night, the double shot for WWF. And, that just speaks volumes to, what kind of guy he was. Always took care of me, always looked out for me. He always put me first. Whenever we worked, he wanted to get me over. He was like that with a lot of guys. He wanted to get them over, showcase them. Let's get you a job. I have a job. Let's get you a job. And that's what he means a lot to me.
Absolutely, bro. So we're at the tail end here of your ECW time. Guilty as Charged 2001 dark match again, the dark match master, taking on Mike Bell, who a lot of people know out there.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are your memories again of that final pay-per-view? I guess a lot of people, some see the writing on the wall, others may not. It was a great show, to be honest with you. When I watch it, I've seen it several times, and it was a great pay-per-view. So it seems unfathomable for a fan to see this great pay-per-view and where things are headed, and for it to be right at the end. So please tell me.
Yeah, that night it was, everyone knew the end. This is the end. There's not, you usually get your booking sheet, and you would see where you are the next few weeks. Well, all we had was the next week in Arkansas, and those were two, paid shows that somebody bought. Somebody in Arkansas paid to have us there.
Right.
And I actually didn't go to. I'm like, I'm not driving out there for, not to get paid. But everyone knew the writing on the wall. We had no upcoming bookings, no booking sheet or anything. And to me, the feeling was, well, fuck it. We're going to go out there tonight and we're going to kill it. And we're going to go out, on top. We're going to show everybody what we got, and we're going to go out on top. And we did. We went out there, laid it all out, and it was a great show.
Yeah, man. And Pine Bluff obviously is the show, the final show of the real ECW. When do you finally, the writings on the wall, but when was the first time you're like, okay, like it's definitely done now? And when that happens, what is already your plan in place that you want to do for your future?
Yeah, when you saw Paul Heyman on WW on Monday Night Raw,
yeah,
we used to all get together. A lot of us lived near each other, so we would go to Supernova's house, and a lot of us would hang out. We'd every Monday night we'd watch the Monday night shows and things like that, and we're all sitting together. And then out comes Paul, and we just look at each other and we're like, well, I guess that's it.
Man, are you kidding me?
And listen, I understand, the businesses fail, they go under, you went out of business, and you're not the first wrestling company to go bankrupt, but fuck, give some of us a call, send me a fucking form letter, an email, something, nothing. Like, hey man, thanks, but we can't continue. I appreciate all your work. That's all it would have taken, but not even that. And so fuck him.
Yeah, that sucks, bro. I can't believe you're all together and see him come out like that. That's crazy. So you did mention WWF before, and that you'd had the chance to work a couple of shots there. In my research, I didn't find anything about that. So now I can broach this subject, now that I know it's an actual thing. How did the opportunity come about? And, how was your experience, and why do you feel it didn't lead to you getting signed or something like that?
I didn't really pursue it after ECW folded. I just was like, I'm right back to a regular job.
Okay.
Even before that, I went back to the sub shop. I made a phone call to my buddy. I'm like, I need money. I haven't been paid in a couple months, and now that company's going under, and I'm not sure I'm going to get anything off of that. So I need money. And I was kind of not into the wrestling. I still wrestled for a couple years. But 2003, I kind of stopped altogether. I had, started having kids, and, I want to be with the kids and things like that, but I went back to music. Wrestling, a lot of guys, like I remember at that time, like, John Balls would call me, and, independents, weren't paying much, and he's hard up for money. I went back to working, 2 jobs, playing with a band, things like that. And he'd call me and be like, I have no money. I'm like, well, get a job, man. Right up the street where you used to work. Your buddy still owns the place. Go. I can't. I'm Bulls Mahoney. Well, no, you're John Reckner and you're starving, man. So to me, I never had that kind of like, well, I'm Wild Bill Wiles. I'm like, no, I'm Bill Wiles. I got a fucking kid, and I need to pay. I need to buy food and diapers. That's where a lot of those guys, I think, get in trouble, when they think that, like, I can't because I'm somebody.
Yeah.
And they just continue to try to make it at wrestling and they're working these mud shows for $100, $50 or whatever. in front of 50 people. I wasn't about that. I went back to music, and I was happy. If I'm not happy doing something, I'm out. I'm gone. And after ECW, I was training guys for Larry. I was coaching for Larry Sharp at the Monster Factory. And then there were some people there that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, this isn't fun putting up with this. I'm coming out here to have a good time. So, sorry, and I kind of left the business.
Right.
And, I got dragged back in 2009, but yeah, I kind of left and went back to, about a month later, I was in another band and on the road.
Right. I think it's really important that you had mentioned this, because I said this to someone recently. I can't quite remember who it was, but I said to them, actually, I think it was Chubby Dudley. It was one of the Dudleys from back in the day before they became the other Dudley Boys. I said, you're no longer in the wrestling business in that company. You have this thing that's inside you to be creative, to create moments and memories. And when that's now done, and you got to try and going back to having just a normal job or whatever, this creative thing is still inside you that needs to get its fix. So I assume a lot of these guys, they need that fix because they created these memories and moments, and that can't just end now. No way. But you had music. So that at least was there for you to at least, get that thing in your brain of creativity out of you. Otherwise, you might be feeling a little bit, I could imagine myself, if I couldn't be creative, it would make me feel pretty depressed, I would say, because it's something that's always inside of me. So,
it's like a drug, and these guys, trying to fulfill that need, and they'll take any show anywhere just to fulfill, just to get that high again. They can't let that go, and then, like you see these guys, like, why are you still wrestling? Trying to get that high again. And sometimes it's sad to see. I never wanted to do that, and again, yeah, you're right. I was lucky. I had music, and I went and did that. Yeah,
man. Anyway, I just thought it was really important to bring up. So I know that you'd mentioned that you got out of the business. You worked for Blue Minis 3PW in early 2002. But another important moment, I guess, as far as ECW is concerned, is One Night Stand and Hardcore Homecoming. That weekend was kind of like, as far as I'm concerned, like one of the last great things for ECW to have, I guess. It probably be sailing off into the sunset, or so we thought. But what did you think of One Night Stand, and were you invited to go?
No, I kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I kind of just disappeared. Really didn't talk to anybody at that time.
Okay.
So no, I don't think anybody would have known how to contact me if they would have. But no, I didn't really have any contact with anybody up until the rebirth, like the rebranding. Of ECW, WWE,
right?
ECW.
Okay, so did they contact you for that, or?
No, I was I was working with I was doing underground cable installations and stuff, and I was actually working with Jack Victory, and he got a call while we're on a job, and they're like, "Oh, come down to." I think the first night was in Trenton, New Jersey. And he's like, we're in the truck. He's like, you gonna want to go? Let's go. We're gonna go down there. I'm like, I don't want no part of that. I can see it's gonna be a disaster, and I don't want no part of it. Have fun. And he actually went down there, just hung out. I think. I don't think he did anything. But yeah, he was. He's friends with Laurinaitis and everything. So
right.
That's actually who called him.
Okay. Yeah. Look, it was a disaster. And for me, I've mentioned this a few times on the show, but I had 3 strikes and I was out and I stopped watching WWE. It was the invasion angle, which anyone could have written, and it would have been better than what they did. That could have gone on for years, especially if you're including all 3 companies. And I'm a big NWA fan. When that was over within like 4 or 5 months, that really upset me. But when I heard ECW was potentially coming back, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope that they still run all the same towns and keep it that tight-knit atmosphere in a smaller convention center type venue or the Hammerstein Ballroom. And they ended up just making it like this fucking pussy version of ECW. So for me, strike 3, and I was done. But I like to just say that every time I have the chance to, because I'm passionate about it, because the only stuff I watch now is stuff from back in the day. But fast forward to 2009, Legends of the Arena. You take on the Musketeer. I watched this earlier as well. I actually haven't seen the Legends of the Arena show, but I've seen every other kind of like reunion show ECW had. But how did it feel like after all these years to get back in there and do it? And it looked like, as far as I was concerned, you hadn't missed a step. And how did it go?
Yeah, it was fun. That night was a lot of fun. Actually, it was Spanish Angel from the Baldies that called me. And he's like, listen, Francine's putting on a show. She wanted me to call you. She wants you to do the show. And I'm like, well, why didn't she call me? And he's like, well, she knows how you feel, and she didn't want you to tell her no, so she had me call. So I'm like, all right, well, I can't say no now. So I did it. And yeah, the night before, actually, a friend of mine who's a promoter in Jersey was running a show. So I called him. I'm like, hey man, I'll come up to your show. I'll work for free. I just want to get back in, get some of this ring rust off. Cause I gotta, so he, I went up there, worked the night before, bumped around a little bit, had a little bit of a match. And then, it was a lot of fun. That whole day was a lot of fun, seeing guys you haven't seen in 9 years. A lot of fun. Jamie Dundee was there. One of the most funny people you'll ever talk to. If you have a chance to interview him,
we had PG-13 on, so it was quite the experience.
Oh, he's awesome. One of my favorites. I got great stories about him and picking him up from the airport in Fort Lauderdale. But it was just a fun time. The match, the Musketeer, was fun. The way that we did the match was fun too, because New Jack was banned from the building.
Oh, okay.
So he's banned from the ECW arena, and the guy who runs the arena, I had some run-ins with him in the past in the ECW, and I'm not a big fan of him. So I'm like, all right, this is how I'm gonna, piss the arena guy off,
okay,
and still get over. So the guy doing the music was the ECW sound guy.
Okay.
So I'm like, you have New Jack's music, awesome. So just about, when things are gonna, looking bad for me, I need you to hit New Jack's music. The place went insane because everyone's like, oh, is New Jack gonna be there? I hit New Jack's music, the place goes insane. I see the arena guy's head fucking explode. He thinks New Jack's coming out. And I roll the dude up for the pin 1, 2, 3. And I get to call everybody a mark. And I wave. Because, fuck that guy. New Jack should have been there.
Absolutely,
and,
bro. Absolutely.
That was my little homage to New Jack, who I really like. So.
Yeah, no, great guy. We had him on the show a few months back, and it was a great interview, and our most viewed interview, obviously, because it's New Jack. But that is the best rib I think you've ever pulled. I don't know if you've pulled any others, but as far as I'm concerned, that has to be number one. I mean, that's fantastic.
yeah, I pulled a few, but that one's one of my best.
Excellent, bro. So from 2013 to 2017, you worked more prominently in Monster Factory Pro Wrestling. How was it to, during this stage of your life, how was it to get back out there and work a bit more frequently?
Yeah, I mean, working there was just working with our students. I was coaching there. So, a lot of these guys we'd have them work a couple matches, their first couple matches by themselves, and then they'd maybe wrestle me. And then they would have to learn to not call the match, from A to Z and things like that. And a lot of guys' first matches were with me, Anthony Bennett, Cody Vance. I think his second or third match was with me. He's an AEW. He's under the hood. He's like 10 or whatever his gimmick is.
Yeah.
But yeah, his like second or third match was with me and a lot of those guys. And I just really, it was fun school shows. I wasn't doing anything crazy, just working with the students, keeping it simple, getting them some experience. And that's really what it was about. I wasn't taking bookings, anywhere.
Yeah. No, that's great, bro. That's you totally giving back to the wrestling business at this point in your career and helping these young guys learn. So many props to you for doing that. And I just thought that this was really important to bring up. Bilvis Wesley on the 22nd of June, 2013 at FWF Sterling Sideburns Showdown. Apparently you faced the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, FWF, a friend of mine runs that. They run down here in Delaware, and they run some New Jersey stuff. And he called me, and he wanted me to work with the Honky Tonk Man, who I've never met. And I'm like, I don't know about that, man. Like, I really don't like the Bilvis gimmick. And now you want me to work, the guy who we stole everything from, but I did. And he was great. We had a lot of fun. It's funny, we're sitting in the locker room and, a lot of young kids around and they're like, what are you guys doing tonight? We're like, we don't know, and the match before us is just ending. And we haven't even talked about what we want to do. And before the music hits, I look at him, he looks at me, he's like, I don't know, we'll do something, cut you off, we'll go outside, we'll come back, we'll take it home. I go, cool, see you out there. And the young kid, who was one of the managers, is like, what? Like, and we had a fun match, and it was great. We had dinner afterwards, and he's a cool dude.
Oh, that's great, bro. Just when I was looking, I was like, no way, that actually happened. You two actually worked together.
I walked in the locker room, walked up to him. I'm like, listen, man, this wasn't my idea. This gimmick was Paul Heyman's idea. I hate it. He just laughed.
Awesome, bro. So what was your last match that you had?
Probably something at the Monster Factory, maybe one of the Turkey Slam matches or something like that. It's been a couple years. I've got some pretty bad back problems I'm going through right now, things like that. So I really haven't been able to do much. Like I've actually stopped coaching because if I go to the school, I'm gonna have to roll around. I can't stop myself from getting in and rolling around at least a little bit. But my body can't take it right now. I got some back problems going through right now.
Okay, fair enough, bro. I'm sorry to hear that. But look, I wouldn't be me if I didn't bring it up because you'd already alluded to it. But you mentioned a story about picking up Jamie Dundee from the airport. So, is there any chance you could tell that one?
Yeah. So this trip was awesome. It was down. I was actually for the Hardcore Heaven pay-per-view in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And me and little Guido, we get actually Tommy Dreamer pays us and pays for the hotel, pays for our rental car to drive him and Beulah's bulldog to Florida. So the whole trip we're driving down, it's me and Guido and this dog who's just in our ear the whole way. So we get down there, we get the hotel. Now everyone knows we have a free room from Dreamer. So now everyone wants a room with us. So we have like 10 people in the room. You got Tracy Smothers, Tommy Rich, like all these people are in this room. And they're like, hey, Jamie's getting out of rehab. We got to go pick him up at the airport. All right. So me and Guido could get in the car. We go pick up Jamie. He's just getting out of rehab. Flying in. So he gets in the car, gets back, get in the hotel room, opens his bag, and starts rolling a joint. I'm like, Jamie, you just got out of rehab, man. He goes, nah, man, I was in for crack, man. Gotta get rid of that. Gotta stop that crack. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. All right. Okay.
Unbelievable, man.
He's awesome. I love him.
Yeah, me too, bro. He told me that he doesn't do interviews anymore, but when he found out that we were from Australia, he was like, all right, well, I'll do it for these guys. And ever since then, he's been really cool. And every time, every now and then we message one another. So yeah, a great guy. Just love that.
I watched him follow a midget around in, not like a wrestling midget, like a normal, little person in a bar, just there with his friends hanging out. He followed this guy around into the bathroom. Hey man, I'll make you a star, man. I'll make you a star. He's like, man, get away from me. He followed this guy around for 2 hours in a bar, pestering this poor guy. It was awesome.
Can you imagine what that would look like? So a couple questions remaining before I get to 5 Second Frenzy. Billy Wiles, what are you up to these days? Plug anything and everything that's going on in the world of Billy Wiles.
Yeah, right now I'm just working, and I just started my YouTube vlog, my YouTube page. It's a travel vlog, and it's crazy that I started it right as this pandemic hit. And me and my wife, we travel a lot. We have a travel agency. So I'm like, God damn, it's been a little difficult. But the page is up. It's called The Wiles Side. And I got my shirt here if you can see it.
Yep, very nice. Very nice.
WYLESSYDE. That's on YouTube. And right now, there's a lot of Disney stuff. We're big Disney fans. My stepdaughter lives in Orlando. Her and her fiance both work for Disney, and we go down there a lot, even before they were there. So there's a lot of Disney vlogs on there. But the purpose of the vlog is travel, not just Disney and stuff like that. With the pandemic, the only thing we've really been able to do is go to Disney. So that's what's on there. I have an episode on there with the Blue Meanie where we do a little Philly history, a little ECW history. We eat cheesesteaks, things like that. Okay, I got some really cool things coming up. Me and my youngest son, he's 15. We're driving out to South Dakota, which is, it's going to be a 9-day drive all the way out to Mount Rushmore, the Black Hills area, going to see Deadwood and, Custer State Park. All the things along the way. On our way back, we're going to come through St. Louis, and we're going to stop in Louisville, and we're going to meet up with Supernova. We do a little interview with him and do a little, Louisville history and stuff with Nova. So yeah, it's the vlog is about travel. I'm working a little bit of wrestling in. I know a lot of wrestlers all over the country. So my idea is to get out there, interview these guys, a little bit of wrestling, but mostly tell me about your town. What makes your city, your town cool? Why do I want to come to Wichita, Kansas? Why do I want to come here? And work with a little bit of wrestling in there. So that's my idea. And it's picking up right now.
That's cool, man. I really like that angle. That's pretty cool. And I'll tell you what, the best day of my life was being at Euro Disneyland in Paris, 2019. That's the best day of my life. And I was at Disneyland when I was about 5 years old, and I don't remember anything other than being in the gift shop. So, but I don't know. I just wanted to tell you that. I don't know why I did, but anyway.
Oh, nice. That Disneyland in California or all Disneyland Paris?
So the first time when I was 5, Disneyland in California, I remember wearing a pink Beverly Hills 90210 shirt. For whatever reason, my parents thought that was appropriate for me to wear. And then, Euro Disneyland in Paris, 2019. So that was just incredible. I'd never been on a roller coaster before. So it's certainly something that I would like to wake up and then go on a roller coaster to start my day, because it's nothing like it. So Billy, I want to ask you before we get to 5 Second Frenzy, do you have any regrets from your time in the wrestling business?
Not really. No, it is what it was. I had a great time. I made some great friends. I'm still friends with them. No, I really don't have any regrets. The only thing I regret is maybe, I wish I would have stood up for myself more at the end of the Dangerous Alliance, and wish I would have said something like, "Hey, idiots, this is not the way to end this." Yeah. I kind of just went along with, whatever Paul was doing, whatever. All right, you want to do that, then whatever. This my only regret is that it ended poorly. But no, I'm still very good friends with CW, and me and Danny talk. I still talk to Spanish Angel, and I talked to a lot of the other guys on Facebook and stuff, and some great friends. And I have a barbecue every year at my house, and Joel Gertner comes down, Meanie, and everyone gets together, and it's kind of like our little, no fans. We just barbecue and eat and drink and have a good time. So it's getting bigger every year. So my hope is that eventually it'd be like an ECW reunion without the fans,
Right.
In my backyard. Like this year, I'm actually gonna get a bigger tent and a porta potty because there's just too many people. So it's we all stick together, we all still talk. I make great friends, and that's really what it's about. I don't talk about the matches, that match, whatever. We talk about the fun things we did on the road together.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, that's great, bro. I mean, you've been known as Wild, you've been known as Beautiful, but now you could be known as Barbecue Billy Wiles.
Oh yeah, I'm famous for. You look outside. I have a smoker. I got a flat top griddle. I got my grill. I got my ribs are famous in the area.
Nice, bro. Preach to the choir here, man. We love a good barbecue in Australia as well, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe one day when I'm over there, I can invite myself over.
Absolutely.
Okay, Billy Wiles. This is the segment here. 5-second frenzy, quick fire. You have 5 seconds to answer every question, but I know with wrestlers, it takes a longer than 5 seconds to get an answer sometimes. So it's okay if you break the rule, but here we go. Billy Wiles, who is your favorite wrestler? And I think I know the answer.
Roddy Piper.
There we go. And the second one is, who is your favorite opponent that you had over the years?
Supernova.
Excellent. The favorite match that you've ever had?
Oh God. Either any match with Nova. I think one of our matches we had, it was on a pay-per-view, and I was Bilvis. That was a great match. Or any match with Balls Mahoney. We a lot of the house shows I would work with Mahoney. We would just go for it, and a lot of fun. So yeah, any match with those two, anyone.
Excellent. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book. Anything written by Neil Peart. Any of his travel books. I don't know if you know Neil Peart's the drummer from Rush.
The drummer from Rush, yeah.
So I just downloaded all of his books onto my Kindle, and I listen to them while I work, and any of those, I love them.
Awesome. Your favorite TV show?
Now or of all time?
Of all time.
My favorite TV show of all time is probably Seinfeld.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. Yeah, I've got a pair of Seinfeld socks. That's how big of a fan I am of the show. But also, what's your favorite TV show now?
I really don't watch much TV now. The last show I actually got into was because of my wife. She made me, was the Game of Thrones, of course.
Okay.
But there was what was the TV show with the Fonz and George Foreman? It's Never Too Late or something like that. William Shatner. It was also like a travel show. They went all over the world together, and they got into a whole bunch of shenanigans.
Right.
It was it was only 2 seasons, maybe 9 episodes, but I got into that. It was a really cool one. It was William Shatner, Fonzie.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. Yeah. That was the last real show that I got into myself, without my wife forcing me to watch.
Fair enough, bro. What is your favorite film of all time?
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Fantastic. Here's a big one. You are a drummer. Who is your favorite musical artist?
Drummer or artist?
Artist in general, yeah.
Well, my top 3 bands of all time, you're gonna laugh, is Rush, Blues Traveler, and I'm a really huge fan of Hanson.
Nothing wrong with that, bro. I had the Mbop single in my house when I was a kid.
I just went to see them in December 2019.
Nice. I guess I don't know if they're as cute as they were back then as they are now, but
they're very good musicians. They're great singers. That live they can do 3-part harmony. They're amazing.
Good for them. Favorite food?
Favorite food? I eat chicken. Chicken parm. My wife makes fun of me. She's like, just everywhere we go, it's chicken parm, chicken parm.
Nothing wrong with that, bro. I like a good chicken parm too. The favorite place to eat on the road?
Favorite place to eat on the road? Back then, it was like Waffle House, Steak and Shake, places like that. Waffle House, you can get like, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, a waffle, and grits for like $3.
Wow.
So it was back then. It was great. Now I stay away from the chains. Now I stay away from chain restaurants. I try to find like little local joints. Like, in planning this trip to South Dakota with my son, I actually went to the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives website and looked up each town we were going to be in and seeing like where they were and looking up these really like niche kind of places.
Okay.
So that's where I like to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be a really cool experience finding different places like that. But we always get Waffle House, Cracker Barrel, and Outback.
Cracker Barrel's great
and stuff.
Yeah.
Favorite alcoholic beverage?
I'd have to say of all time, beer. Being German, beer is my go-to. Lately, I've been getting into like whiskey. I guess I'm getting older. I went through a phase where it's like all just wine. I still have, being half Italian, I drink wine with dinner.
Yeah.
But beer's the go-to. A good IPA is where to go.
Very nice, very nice. And I'm sure you've seen that I've partaken a bit of red tonight. So, bit of cab.
It's 11 in the morning, so I'm just sticking with Gatorade. I got a couple hours.
Cool, bro. And the second last one for 5 Second Frenzy is the most naughtiest one of all. It's your favorite female body part.
Oh. I'm looking around for my wife. I like a girl's ass. although if you ask my wife, it would be boobs. My wife has a big set, but and I'm always playing with them, and But what I'll look at first, a girl's ass. Yeah.
Very nice, bro. Very nice. It always gets a laugh, that one. And Billy, your favorite curse word is the final one.
Cunt. I know it's not it's not big in America, but
big down here.
I love cunt. I say cunt all the time. I love it.
The cunt is just in the regular vocabulary here. If you say, it's a friend of yours, he's a good cunt, that one. He's a good cunt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, Billy Wiles, I want to thank you so much for your time here today. Been so much fun. You've been so honest and open and interesting, and you've had little stories that I didn't even know were going to come up. So for me, this has been a joy to learn so much about you and what you did in the wrestling business and you as a person. So as usual, right at the end, I always do my big speech and I say, I hope you are proud of what you accomplished in the wrestling business. And if I'm one of the 3 new Dangerous Alliance fans in the world, I want you to know in the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, that someone appreciated what you did, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
No worries, bro. And thank you guys out there for watching the Insider's Edge podcast on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. We will see you guys next time. Thank you.